Hey there everyone and welcome to another Near Monsters video. In this video we're going to have a look at all the water monsters that came out in 2019. This is going from anniversary to anniversary. At this point I've gone through all the elements. Water is the final element, so you can find a link in the description which goes to the previous one. There's also a playlist with all of them in. I'm going to repeat this series next year for all the 2020 monsters that have come out. And anyway, let's get stuck into this video. So there are three sections to this video, just like all the other ones. The first section, we're going to go through the themes and sub-themes. That is the archetypes which water is built around. And we're also going to look at the stats of the monsters. Then we're going to go through all the new monsters. So going through in the order shown. 2019, we got a lot of piercing. Water in general actually has lots of piercing. I think it benefits generally because water, a lot of the good water monsters, water really got expanded on in 2018. It's had support in both 2018 and 19, which is when piercing stuff has been coming out. So it's got a lot of that around. And then finally we're going to go looking at how water is doing now, what it's gained from the last year, and then also what I would like for it in the future. There are links in the description to any point in this video, just like all my other videos. So let's get stuck in. This first screen we have all the water monsters. This includes the ones from 2019. There are 29 monsters in total now. We're not going to include them in the themes that we're about to talk about. Sorry, muffling my words. Stumbling my words. Anyway, the new monsters, we've got 3 new Mythics, 6 Legendaries, and 6 Super Epics. It's pretty good support compared to the other elements. Earth had the massive amount of support this year, but I think water, maybe fire as well, was the sort of second most supported. 6 Legendaries, it's more than some of the others, I think. I can't remember exactly. But anyway, in terms of stats on water monsters, what are they like? Well, they are very similar to certain other elements. So if you look at the bottom here, it's like Storm in terms of the stats arrangement, however with very slightly more damage focus than defense focus, and it's like Shadow in terms of the speed, but with there's a few slow monsters but not very slow. It's like more emphasis on slow and the mid-range. So basically, to explain, water is very much in the mid-range of speed. It's got quite a lot of fast things. It's one of the sort of faster elements. It's not like Holy and Earth that don't have fast monsters. It has fast monsters, but the slow monsters tend to be in that 31 to 50% category. It doesn't really go slower than that. And it doesn't have as many fast monsters at the very fast end as Storm. Storm is the one with the very fast, as well as Fire. So water is kind of more mid-range speed, but it doesn't go very slow, and it's got some very fast stuff. And then the stats wise, I was saying similar to Storm in that. I think I might have said Storm a second ago when I meant to say Shadow. But anyway, so in terms of the stat arrangements, whether they're tanky or attacky, water there has a lot of aggression in it. It doesn't have much on the side of defense. It hasn't got any full defense monsters in it. It only goes as far as standard defense. It has got a couple of tankier monsters in it, but it's more focused on the aggression front, and just not quite full aggression like Shadow has. So that's where it stands in general. You can see I've got a few points made here. Water monsters, looking through them, I noticed there's a very heavy focus on link. It's got some very strong link stuff in the element. They've also got piercing, like I said, and they don't really have much in the way of stun protection other than stun absorbers. There are stun converters, I believe. I can't remember exactly what we're going to go through in this video at this moment, but basically it doesn't have a stun counter, and it's only got these stun absorbers. So in terms of getting some stun protection, it's not the best at having stun protection. However, that said, the monsters it has which are stun absorbers are kind of good. So anyway, we'll see as we go through this video what's going on in the element. The first theme to go through is sleep. Water is the sleep element. It's known for sleep, and these are the monsters that are in it. On the left here we have monsters that kind of work with sleep. We've got 2 monsters that are sleep immune. Well, one's sleep immune, one's insomnia, and then we've got the one-on-one monster there that works obviously with the sleep immune monster. And Guy Murai used to be sleep immune before they decided it was too good for sleep immunity. But anyway, those work in sleep stuff. And then on the right, we've got lots of different sleep monsters. Two of them, in fact, have link sleep moves. So that's very clearly showing water is the sleep element. And yeah, one of those does has a sleep actually has sleep immunity as well, so it works in the 1-1. I'm talking about Hiberzor there in the middle at the bottom. And then yeah, the other things, they have Dreamy Entrance, 3 of those with Dreamy Entrance, and then one just being a sleeper. Dreamy Entrance is the way to make sleep very viable in PvP. So PvP tends to be a little faster than PvE, and monsters which come in and make an impact tend to be a little more viable. So monsters which can come in and put an enemy to sleep are exceptionally good, rather than having to wait to get a turn to put something to sleep, because sleep is so powerful as a strategy that almost all the sleep monsters are slow, so for them to come in and then get a turn to actually put something to sleep, it takes too long. However, Dreamy Entrance gets past that, obviously, and that's why it's kind of more powerful. So the fact that water has 3 monsters which put an enemy to sleep when they enter really shows that sleep is kind of more viable in this element than other elements. Next theme is Detox/Poison. Now, water used to be the sort of anti-poison element. However, they've actually ended up becoming quite a strong poison element. So it's a different style of poison. It's not necessarily poisoning the enemies. It's actually poisoning yourself or using poison to your advantage. So looking on the left here, these two, I would say, are kind of the most interesting in terms of how water does poison. Both these monsters are poison immune, so you can poison the whole field, and it's not being a negative thing for your team. In fact, Azaridos is pretty cool because it has a link water move, so it wants to really fit into this. And then it has the poison immunity and hold ground, so normally you wouldn't want to use this with poisoning your team because it's got hold ground and it nullifies that if it's poisoned. But with the poison immunity, it means you can use it with it. That's actually an addition which I asked them to do, the poison immunity, so I kind of wanted to point it out for that reason. And then in the middle, we've got the detox monsters. So these, they either poison your team or if they're poisoned, they can do their detox move. Quite clearly, fits with that poison gas, poisoning for everything, and getting a benefit from you being poisoned. Also counters poison, which is why the original, that's what water was doing. It was countering poison. And I think detox was kind of put in there to counter poison, but then it's been expanded upon with things like the 2 monsters on the right. So Teika Senshi both poisons enemies and kills poisoned enemies. It's very powerful as a poison monster. And then we've got the Epic, which is surprisingly viable. Got the Link Water Double Poison Eater, only 100 seconds, and it's got high attack, so it kills things easily with that. So quite a lot going on in poison, and it's definitely an interesting theme which, if they add more to it, I can see this becoming very strong. I certainly like the combination of Freeze Cobra with Polar Boss next in line. So Polar Boss comes in poisoned, and it's got high speed, and it can come in and do that detox strike, which just one-shots pretty much anything. So yeah, that's a nice little combo there, and there's other stuff like that. Similarly with the Abyss Raider that can come in and use the detox blast immediately, and then you've got the Var Rage to power these things up. There's cool stuff. I find it really interesting compared to the normal kind of poison stuff which we see. The next theme is Stun theme. So I wasn't sure whether or not to make this a theme or sub-theme, but actually looking through the monsters, there's quite a lot of stun there. I think I actually messed up in a tournament video, which I did a couple of months back, and I said that I knew it was going to be a full water team that was part of the tournament, and I said, well, water doesn't have much stun, so I decided to not put any stun protection in. Yeah, that's kind of wrong. Looking at this, there's clearly stun. So on the left here we have 3 things with stun revenge, and then down the bottom we have the stunning entrance monster, and on the right we have monsters with moves that stun. And the fact that the I'm trying to remember the name of it, the Flutter Drake Iris, it has a stun move and it's water, tends to be when you get these cycle of monsters and they, one of each element, the one that's in, for each element, they tend to have something that's more of a theme of that element. So the fact that this water Flutter Drake has a stun move kind of shows you that, okay, water actually does have stun built in. That is a theme in water. So various little stun things going on here. There's not kind of an overall mass theme of shocking entrance or that kind of stuff at this point, but definitely some stun stuff going on, and it can be utilized in various teams. Then we've got the entrance control sub-theme. So this is a sub-theme even though there's a lot of monsters. I think because they aren't necessarily how to best put it? I would say it's not kind of a definite thing as much as the other three. Those other three themes are definite things that water do, whereas this, it seems to be, yes, quite a few monsters do it, but I don't know so far whether or not it's actually a big theme in water. I think it's more a theme in in Storm than it is in water. But anyway, we have got some monsters here which have some entrance control. So the ones on the left, they can, well, I can't remember exactly how I've grouped these, but anyway, on the left in general, they kill things to either kill themselves or a teammate to bring something in. Then we've got the Freeze Rider, that I think it's called Freeze Rider or Frost Rider, that switches friends to bring something in. And then we've got two things that do pullback or send back, and that can do teammates. That's in the middle on the right. And then on the far right, we've got things that remove themselves either by step back or exit plan. Now those ones with the step back or exit plan, I would say are probably the most kind of like built in. These ones work in a Link Water team, and I mean, two of them are Link monsters, and you know, really push the kind of, okay, water does do entrance control compared to the other ones. But anyway, there's quite a lot in water which can do the entrance control stuff. And you might, well, if you've been playing the game recently, you'll know that water is really quite strong in PvP, and entrance control is one of those things that pushes something just over the top a little bit. If it's, you know, already good, and then it has also this control stuff, then it can be really, really powerful. We're now going to have a look through all the new monsters, starting with the Super Epics, and this is Abyss Sworder Mist. This is one of the strongest Abyss Sworders, the main reason being that it has incredibly powerful sweeping moves. So the lower attack on it doesn't really matter that much, even if it's with Abyss Sworders, because Sneak Attack is exceptionally powerful. True Hit won't really do that much, but if it's with other Abyss Sworders, it is automatically camouflage, so Sneak Attack is just always an option. So you just use Sneak Attack, you ignore True Hit, and then after that it's got Blood Fury, very, very powerful move, that only 110 seconds. So if it gets left alone, if they kill the other Abyss Sworders, then it can still then just be sweeping. And otherwise, if you use this outside of Abyss Sworder teams, then it's got the Sneak Attack and Blood Fury, which you can set up through some other means. So you just need to stealth it with something else. And there's a couple of things in water that can stealth it, but you know, actually I say that it's a solo monster, so you're not using it with water. This can basically work in any team which doesn't have water, if you know it's a stealth kind of team, and it's very strong for a super epic with that, just as a good sweeper. Doesn't have any defensive passives, but it's exceptionally tanky, and it's only a super epic, so you can't expect it to have everything. Next monster is Atlantean. Now this is an older monster that has been in the game a long time, but this year it got a revamp and it got a new moveset. And the moveset it got is very powerful. Of the ones that got revamped, the Storm one got the sort of shell stuff and got Tranquilizing Entrance, so that one's really strong for that reason. This one is probably the next strongest one that got revamped. And the reason is it just does it all. It does sweeping, it's tanky, and it does support. So when it enters Stunning Entrance, Stealthy Entrance, lovely. With its high defense, this is not going to die that easily. They're not going to kill it that easily. It's got a 70-second move that can heal the whole team, and 130-second Purify Mist, which is lovely on a super epic. They tend not to have 130 seconds. We've seen it as 200 seconds, and considering it's a tanky monster, this fits the role of good support with the Purify Mist. It's also then got the Sneak Attack, which we spoke about just a second ago as being a powerful move, so the low attack on this doesn't matter for that. Kinslayer is also powerful. On this monster, the low attack does hold it back a little bit, but Sneak Attack basically is gonna kill most things. Now the thing is, when you use this in practice, it's not that great as a sweeper, because to set up that Sneak Attack, it comes in stealthed, fine. If you can stealth it through other means, great, it can work, but the only way it can set itself up once it's had stealth removed is 130 seconds, which in that time it's going to get it removed. Like, it's going to get hit by something, either like they just hit all or they hit it directly. So it can't really set up its own Sneak Attack, which means that ultimately what you do tend to just end up spamming Purify Mist, and then you do the heal all when you want the heal all. But I think for a super epic, this has a lot going for it, and if you have any team where you can stealth it, similar to Abyss Sworder Mist, then this is going to be exceptionally good and work as a sweeper as well as a nice support monster. Ecrimaris is the next monster. Now this can be used with other water monsters, and it's meant to be used with other water monsters. This kind of pushes stealth in water. So we've seen in the last two monsters, they have stealth stuff on them, and it definitely seems to be a bit of a running theme, at least in these monsters that we looked at so far, that water is now doing stealth. But those two previous ones are solo, so they can't be used with other water monsters. This one, anyway, it is raw, so it enters and it's got a bit of a weird entrance passive. Gets a turn surprisingly fast. I think it's in about 20 seconds, and then it stealths itself. It's only a 50-second move to stealth itself, which is basically good for setting it up. There are a couple of monsters in the game with 100-second stealth moves, and like I said with the Atlantean, in that time it's just too long that you lose your stealth before you can actually attack, so it just doesn't work. However, with this monster it's only 50 seconds. I'd say 70 seconds is where it starts working, but it's not exceptional. 50 seconds is where, yes, it definitely works. It sets up the move, and you can then use sneak attack. So this monster comes in, gets a turn in 20 seconds, stealths itself. 50 seconds later, it can then sneak attack and kill something. After it's got a couple of kills, it can just be using the raw bloodthirst, and it doesn't need to be stealthed. Otherwise, it's got the assisted hit all, which is not that powerful because it's a super epic, but as a general sweeper, this is nice, and it can set itself up well. It can be countered by poison, so you kind of need to don't use this in a link water poison team. But if you can purify it or that kind of thing, or otherwise stealth it through other means, this fits with like a link water stealth team, that kind of stuff. It's quite a nice sweeper for a super epic. Next is Megalodragon. Now this is due for a nerf. I don't know exactly how they're going to nerf it at the time I'm making this video. But anyway, it's going to get nerfed because it's exceptionally powerful. You can see there on the right, I've put it really high in the tier lists. And basically, it's super fast with the move Sonic Strike that kills anything that's about to get a turn in 10 seconds. And that just proves to be, well, it's really powerful because this stops any super high speed frontline strategies, which means it can be brought in certain PvP metas when certain stuff is around that's being a problem. And if then they try to hide that thing behind a protector, it's got Raw Assassinate, which doesn't kill that many things. It's not super powerful, but if there's some high speed thing that's a problem, then it's got low health by a given. If something's got high speed, then it's got low health. And so if it doesn't have high defense as well, which most things that are built to be like some high speed, high impact thing have low health and low defense so that you can kind of deal with it. So the Raw Assassinate should kill those things. So between Raw Assassinate and Sonic Strike, it can deal with a lot of frontline strategies. And where Sonic Strike becomes really powerful in PvP is you can skip. And then normally skipping, the opponent just skips back. But if they skip back to Sonic Strike, well, then you can Sonic Strike the thing that they just skipped with. So it's pretty cool in that regard. And then it's got the solo Bloodbite. Again, another solo monster. But you can pretty much use this in a water team anyway, because between Raw Assassinate and Sonic Strike, the Reckless attack is also quite good because it's got max attack for a super epic. You don't really need the solo Bloodbite, but the solo Bloodbite sometimes comes up and is useful. Bit of an insane sweeper here for super epics, and yeah, works nicely everywhere, mainly PvP though. Megamumat, sorry. This is a super epic version of a monster that we get on the islands, and I mentioned this actually in the last video, the Storm video, because it's got a really weird combination of Element Accelerate and solo Stampede, Desperate Stampede. So you can only really do one of these effectively, because if you use it with water monsters, you can't do the damage move. If you use it without water monsters, then Element Accelerate isn't going to be that useful. But unlike the Storm one, this has Hold Ground, so you can line up the Desperate Stampede. It's also got Life Flip Self that's kind of handy. You can maybe set up the Desperate Stampede that way. I don't know. It's got high attack with Zella's attack, and that always works quite nicely, as we just mentioned with the previous monster, Megalodragon. So yeah, this monster's fine for newer players. You can do the skipping to set up the solo Desperate Stampede, and it can kill some things, but it's not that powerful. Next monster is Slug Bruce. Like with the other slugs, a bit hard to evaluate by itself. This one is less useful for the Revenge. The Revenge does big damage and poison. It doesn't say the... Oh, it does say poison. So that's fine. You don't really use it for that. Basically, this monster is one that makes it all work because it has Switch Friend. So if anything gets knocked back, or if you're using the Thugs with, say, Aura Dragon, so something dies, then you can bring that key one back in by switching Friend. And the main thing is it's got Thug Retribution. So this and the Shadow one are the two sweepers of the group when you use them. You tend to thief stuff with, you thief something with the Shadow monster, and then that can do the Blood Crave, and that charges this one's Retribution, and then through the feasting this one keeps getting charged and can use the Thug Retribution. It's also good because if it gets left by itself, it can switch Friend itself to remove it, because you don't want one Thug left alone. They're a happy friendly sort of couple, so they have to stay a friendly family. That's what I mean. They have to stay as a group. So yeah, this one's one of the stronger Thugs and works nicely in the group. That's pretty much how it works. So now we move on to Legendaries, and the first Legendary is Atlan Tyrant. This one's a bit of an exciting one for Link Water or Assisted Water. So it is a poison monster. I mentioned at the poison theme that they do more kind of detox stuff, but this is full-on poison while also synergizing with the detox. Because of the Link Poison Typhoon, you set up poison on all the enemies, but also you poison your teammates, and so that can then line up, any detox attacks. The speed on this, though, is a little bit slow, which is just to keep it in balance, because, if you could set things up right at the beginning and then do the detox attacks and all that kind of stuff, it could get really nasty. But auto poison means that this is very good for just helping your team sweep through the enemy team and helping any kind of poison thing just like roll through them. Sleep immunity as well, very nice. I don't really know about combos with, say, 1-on-1. It's been a little hard to try and make some combos, but ultimately auto poison and sleep immunity are both powerful passives. It has a bit of combo potential with the Link Poison Typhoon. The raw double Blood Crave has a huge amount of recoil, which is not so good. Basically, you have the double Poison Eater, and that's what you do with this. So even though it's a slow move, it does sweep through the enemy team, and with the auto poison, it's nice. It's just generally good in a poison team. The secret skill is very interesting. You can't use it immediately, but if this sticks around in play, the idea is this fits with the Link Water idea. So you poison the whole field, but then you remove the poison from your own team by using the detox stuff. And even if you kill enemies, because this has auto poison, the new ones end up poisoned, and then you can use Epidemic and kill off the entire enemy team. It gets past any buff stats, so this has interesting use against super buffed enemies in PvE. Which is always cool. So that's this monster. Next one is Blumaluga. Now this one has proven to just be immensely powerful. There's so much to say, so I'm gonna stop myself from just talking for 10 minutes. This is tanky, it shields itself, it's got camouflage, it protects your team from stun. This is the really powerful water stun absorber. And then it also has knockback potential. It can do a powerful hit all, it can kill 2 things with piercing. And what's crazy about it is while it doesn't have an immediate impact, like a lot of mortar monsters, it comes in and then it loads itself. However, when it gets a turn again, it can then either knock back or do high damage, or maybe just skip and then kill 2 things, then quickly load itself again and then kill 2 more things. This is a crazy sweeper that also supports your team. It's a hard thing to deal with. It hard counters a lot of stun because they can't time strike double, or if there's any something protecting it. Because it's got camouflage, they can't time strike it. There's a lot this monster does, and it's insanely powerful. Mainly for PvP, but in PvE it also does a lot of work there. It does enough damage with the Tsunami Mortar that it works there too. Next monster is Dull Freeze. This is exceptional for PvP, using the times up to kill chrono monsters. There are so many chrono monsters in PvP that just being able to kill... you often can target one chrono monster and then kill something else too. The tankier stats on this make it excellent for just surviving a bit better. A lot of sweepers, they monsters which would have a move like Time's Up, they have lower defense, so they can be killed off a little more easily. This one does not. It has good speed, good defense, and can kill things willy-nilly. So Time's Up is very, very powerful. It was designed for this monster, and so it one-shots despite this not having the high attack. Blizzard comes up very, from time to time, very useful single hitting move. Blood Fury means it's going to work in the long run. And then you've got the insane passive that creates 2 Diamondoids next in line. That is so good for stopping the enemy team from getting through you. Those have Auto Protect Plus and Hold Ground if you don't know. Yeah, there are counters to Protectors, and sometimes putting those Diamondoids in your team backfires, but most of the time it stalls the enemy team by so much that it really doesn't matter. And look, it doesn't matter when it doesn't get countered. So what I mean is, it will get countered, but it's worth it. It's not like a downside to this monster. Anyway, basically this is a really awesome PvP sweeper that does more than just that. It has an entrance that's viable as well, useful. So it's a pretty cool monster. Dream Moth, this is the Water's Moth. Like all the other moths, it has to go through the Pooper. The Pooper is slow, tanky, has to pass 100 seconds, and then turns into this. If the Pooper gets killed before it turns into this, then it turns into a 5-star version, which doesn't have the passives, and it has super epic stats. So, what's this monster got to offer? Well, when it enters, it puts an enemy to sleep. That is powerful. Dreamy Entrance is just good in general, and the fact this has double Dream Hunt means that you have the choice when this enters. It has the Roaring Entrance, if you didn't realise. So it instantly gets a turn, and you have the choice to either leave the sleeping enemy asleep, or to use that sleeping enemy to kill 2 things. It's also worth noting that things that are poisoned can't be put to sleep, but they actually do get put to sleep for an instant until the poison does damage. Now, because this has Roaring Entrance, it can actually sleep something that's poisoned and then use that to double Dream Hunt. So that makes it even a little bit more viable than it would otherwise be. So yeah, it can kill things. The sleep was 200 seconds, which is not that nice, but the Purify can come up and be handy. The 200 seconds, you've got to remember as well, it puts 1 enemy to sleep already, so getting a turn immediately, it could put 1 to sleep, you then use a sleep, or maybe you get the second to sleep, and that's enough value. Like, putting 2 enemies to sleep is going to really turn the game in your favour. So, this is quite cool, but with all that said, I do think it is one of the weaker moths. I think the super epic version is not that powerful because it doesn't have that Dreamy Entrance, and that's really what's good. The super epic version is just slow, it's quite tanky, but it's got a really slow sleep all move. Dream Hunt, not that useful. The assisted doesn't matter. Purify, fine, but that's not enough for one monster. So it's held back by the super epic version. It's held back by the Pooper, and in general, it's fine, but it's not actually exceptionally strong. I prefer something like the Fire one over this one any day. Next is Karu Kenshi. Thanks for who sent me the screenshot. I can't remember. It came from someone else. So this monster is a Link monster for sure, and it's very powerful in PvP. So when it enters, it shields the whole team. That's probably the main thing about it. And then it's got this Link dual give turn. So if you have three or more monsters there, you can give turn. There's a particular loop, which I can't remember if Tardent Grenade is in this video, but basically you can loop this with any give turn to give turn multiple times. Because if you do the dual give turn to the give turn monster and then a sweeper, then the sweeper kills something and then the other one gives turn back to this, which then gives turn to the sweeper and the give turn monster, and it can do that 3 times. So that is very strong, and there's another monster which has dual give turn, that's 3 use, that you can do that with, but this one, when it enters, it shields itself. And not just itself, but it shields your whole team, so it very reliably sets up this give turn loop. It makes it very hard for the opponent to stop it from happening, because it often requires killing multiple monsters to stop it from happening, or at least killing this monster, which it's not the easiest thing to do. Other than that, it can kind of kill things. It's got the way to heal itself, but ultimately it's that give turn with the potential to kill something and the shield entrance, and then it can also remove itself to, which is useful because it's not the best on the field after it's done the give turn stuff. So anyway, really powerful monster that it took a bit of time for people to know whether or not it was really good or whether it was bad, But yeah, no, for sure, this is really good, and the only reason why it's not S+ in PvP is because it has the link requirement. This is one of the best link water monsters that you definitely use if you're making any link water team. Razor Ray is next. This one is less exciting. It's an energy monster, it charges itself, it blasts something. It has the quick charge, so it can enter and do that very quickly with its high speed. This is like Deer Dragon, very similar to Deer Dragon. The difference is, while it's not just about the blast, it also has killing one enemy with a laser blast. You tend to use it with the laser blast, but that said, I've barely seen anyone use this. Unfortunately, it's just not that viable. It's fine, but like it's just a weaker legendary. You can come in and do something immediately, and then it will do stuff very slowly, and that's basically how it works. So the difference between this and Deer Dragon is this has hold ground, which makes it more reliable to begin with, and also more difficult to kind of remove in a rush. However, the benefit for Deer Dragon is that it has Bloodthirst. So Deer Dragon becomes a stun immune sweeper, whereas this always remains a slow sweeper. So I would say probably Deer Dragon's better because just the limit is higher. This is just more reliable at the beginning. So yeah, I actually prefer Deer Dragon, I think, over this one. Anyway, next we move to Mythics. So the first Mythic to look at is Huskagon. This is an insanely powerful stun monster. It comes in with a shocking entrance. It can actually bring itself back with the secret skill. I can't read it right now, it's too small on my screen, but basically you can pull itself back and then it will re-enter when the thing gets killed, or when anything gets killed, and do another shocking entrance. With its high speed, that is insanely good at just being able to stun the enemy team lots. Time freeze is pretty handy. You can obviously build around it so it doesn't affect you. Just shutting down some other things is always nice. And then the time crush double is not the strongest move. Like, it's not as strong as you think it is. However, with the shocking entrance, it does set it up nicely so you can kill two things with piercing when this gets a turn. And then from there, when it gets turns, it can kill things with the Blood Crave. The other two moves, they come up later sometimes, mainly the Show of Might. Often there's a teammate which isn't doing that much, or they put some random token in or something. You can kill that off and do a tranquilizing entrance on the enemy team. That's pretty damn powerful. And yeah, otherwise it's just a great sweeper with the shocking entrance and a couple of other bits about it that are going to help you control the match. Next is I wanted to check before this video to make sure I do the pronunciation right. It is Koreokami, or something like that. Anyway, I tried. This is a Japanese mythical snow dragon. Yuki that it creates is snow in Japanese, and this is all built around snow. So this monster is pretty cool. It doesn't look as good as it actually is. In practice, this tends to be a little stronger, and the reason is it's tanky with hold ground. So it's not easy to remove. It has piercing attacks, and even if you do kill it, you get 3 Yukis next in line. Those Yukis, they've got a couple of moves, but basically what you do with them is when they get a turn, you sacrifice them to kill an enemy. They do enough damage to one-shot pretty much anything. And so this has high speed. It makes a Yuki on its first turn, and then even if it gets killed, then you get 3 more Yukis. And they have to be dealing with these Yukis, otherwise they're just going to be, you sacrifice them, you trade them for other things. People also like this monster nearer the beginning of the game, if they don't have like a Link Water setup. But like I said, Link Water is very strong, so if they have Link Water monsters that they want to use, this can help set them up by creating loads of Yukis which are all water, and as they come into the field they can, basically activate Link for any other monsters. But generally, you want to be using this as a sweeper. You create the Yukis, you do the Snow Slide. You can also do the Avalanche, which, bear in mind, the Yukis on your field, while you can trade them, if you end up with like multiple Yukis and the Avalanche is charged, I would just Avalanche. That Avalanche does absolutely insane damage. It's something like 70,000 or something ridiculous like that. It one-shots pretty much everything in the game. And then, the Snow Slide, one-shots piercing 2 enemies. You got the send back that's always kind of useful, and you can heal itself, which with the high defense and hold ground, this can become a nightmare to kill. It's got no weaknesses as well, which is another thing to bear in mind. So pretty cool monster, and I hope with me explaining it a bit, you can kind of see, oh yeah, no, this is powerful. It's just less flashy because when it comes in, it has to just create snow, and then, you don't necessarily line things up. So you look at it and you think, well, maybe it wouldn't work. But in practice, it really does. It's very good. And in the right teams, very powerful monster. Next monster is Suikenshi. This is absolutely for PvP. PvE, it can kind of do some stuff, but this is a PvP through and through. And what I like about this is Link Water is so strong that a lot of people want to run Link Water, but the blood move on this monster is so low. And in fact, this monster in general counters water very nicely. So even though it's a water monster itself, it's actually more of a counter to water than anything else. You can see in the Kinslayer, it kills water monsters. Stealth Break as well, enormous counter to anything with stealth, mainly Bloomaluga. And I've mentioned a couple of times that stealth in water has kind of been pushed a little bit, it's like emerging out, and Stealth Break is obviously going to counter that. And then Dual Slayer Bane killing anything, that's just generally how it works. So Dual Slayer Bane is the go-to move most of the time, and 100 seconds on it, it's reliable, it's going to be there, you're going to use it quite frequently. And normally Dual Slayer Bane and Slayer Bane have the issue that they're on monsters without high attack, but this monster is a mythic with sort of standard attack arrangement. That means, yeah, for sure, that is super powerful. That is going to kill things very nicely. And a 100-second move on a stun immune monster that kills things very reliably is exceptional. And then you bring in the fact that it's got focus, which means that you can actually kill whichever two monsters you want. Even if there's a protector, you can still hit the monster that has a kill and whatever else you need to kill. This does a lot. So yeah, this monster, you may not necessarily look at it and you think like, okay, cool, it's a sweeper. It's the kind of sweeper which just works really, really well. Decent speed, good attack moves, everything reliable. It can deal with multiple situations, and the stun immunity on it, it just works beautifully. The secret skill is not something you would ever use. 250 seconds, not bad. No. Don't turn that on. The sweeper moves on this are just what make it awesome, and people know that it's good. Like, as soon as they saw it, they're like, yeah, this is going to be brilliant as a PvP sweeper. So yeah, that's the last monster. Now let's go into section 3. Here we're going to look at these monsters that came in 2019 and have a look at which theme they went into, and then we're going to talk about the element more in general. So you can see there's quite a lot in the stun theme here. We've got only one super epic, and one of those legendaries, Razor Ray, I said is kind of fine, but nothing that special. It doesn't really do much stun, really. But anyway, and also sorry to say, the super epic is a solo monster, so it's not really in a Link Water stun theme. But anyway, the other three monsters, actually Dolphrey's there is not like necessarily. Anyway, whatever. There's stun in here. There's a bit of stun around the place, and certainly Huskagun is an insane water stun monster that can do a lot of work. So cool seeing that advanced a bit more. We looked at stun at the beginning, and there's some stuff there, but like it's sort of hard to piece together. It's not like necessarily a strategy, but Huskagun can really like bring that into as a strategy for water to do. And otherwise, just having some stun around is always nice for a bit of control. Sleep, we didn't get a whole lot. We got the Moth, obviously. Always fits in with like the classic theme. But yeah, we didn't get a whole lot of sleep. The sleep from Kurokami, which is the same from the stun, it's actually from the Yukis. The Yukis can sleep or stun as well as doing the damage. So kind of you can do stuff there, but it's not really what Kurokami is meant to do. And then Huskagun is in the I can't remember what it's called now, where you kill a teammate and it's like show of power or show of might, I can't remember which one it is, and then it will sleep a random enemy. It does the tranquilizing entrance effect. So there's a bit of sleep stuff, but not actually that much sleep stuff has been added. The detox poison, we only got one, but I talked about Antler Tyrant for a little while. It's very much fits with the detox and poison theme. It's really like making that a possibility, and I look forward to like seeing some more stuff which really expands on that a bit more. Entrance control sub-theme, we've got a couple of things that do entrance control. The Huskagun can do a pullback that's nice for anything with an entrance, and in fact right next to it is a very strong entrance monster that is Kurokenshi, although Kurokenshi has unmovable, so you can't abuse its entrance passive, but that can sacrifice itself to bring things forwards and obviously bring a next monster in. So a bit more entrance control. The more we see of that, the more it can actually become a theme, and you can build around it and then make something just absolutely insane for PvP. So that's what we got. That's where those monsters fit in. We also have a new sub-theme of camouflage. I mentioned stealth at various points, and it's very noticeable that water is getting camouflage and stealth built into it now. So if you just look here, we've got 4 camouflage monsters, and then otherwise things which stealth the whole team. Actually, no. There's one that doesn't. There's one that just stealths itself, but the other ones will stealth their whole team. So camouflage in water seems to be a theme. Well, it's an emerging sub-theme. And while 2 of those monsters that we got this year, the bigger ones on the right, by the way, are the ones we got this year. Those ones, 2 of them are actually solo, but, you know, even though you can't use them as like a link water strategy, they are demonstrating what water does as stealth. So that seems to be something which I think looking forward we'll probably see more of, is water having stealth built into it as the other kind of, the next element to have stealth in it. Currently, shadow is the main stealth element, and I think we have some of it in earth a little bit, but yeah, water seems to be the second most in terms of the most monsters with stealth stuff going on there. And in the bottom left, it's important to note Treviathan. That very much is, you know, it has the link stealth all move, so if there's any kind of sneak attack stuff that comes in, or otherwise link water stealth synergy stuff, Treviathan is going to really push that and make it powerful. So where does water stand now? Well, they have a huge number of sweepers. They got more sweepers this year. The super epics, I'm not sure if you noticed when I was going through, but it was very surprising that water got a lot of sweepers in their super epics. And yeah, that's just generally what they seem to get this year. They have lots of that in general too. They have sleep and stun for control. They have counters to everything in terms of like stealthing, poison, you know, sleep. They can counter basically everything. They've got combo potential. We talked about Karukenshi doing the link double give turn, and otherwise they've got entrance control. They've got yeah, so much control stuff. Combo stuff. I said entrance control in there. I'm reading it while speaking. So yeah, water is the best element for PvP, hands down. It just has everything that you could ever want to have. And what's important to note as well about the sweeper moves is, while a lot of them are piercing, which helps, they actually, a lot of them don't have conditions that are awkward to fulfill. If you watched my Storm video recently, you'll know that I said at the end of that while Storm has kind of all the pieces that you'd expect to be for PvP, are good for PvP, it has conditional stuff, or stuff that can be countered very easily and like doesn't always work. It's unreliable. Water has stuff that's just super reliable, and it has just like all the bits that you want. Something like Karukenshi, which is the link water monster, it has the combo stuff. It shields your team, which is just brilliant for keeping them alive. And it also has some entrance control possibility in there. Like, that's the kind of stuff which just absolutely takes over PvP, that link water's become really, really strong. And not just, you know, water in general, but it is those link water moves as well that are very powerful. So what I think it's lacking is that it doesn't have many defensive monsters. It's a more aggressive element, and also because those monsters, like, you know, with piercing and stuff, piercing doesn't work so well in PvE where like enemies are buffed because suddenly it doesn't do enough damage, or just other things. It doesn't really have enough for PvE there, and it doesn't have strong stun protection, which is ironic because a lot of things where they have something like that water has stun, you'd expect it to also have the counter to that. However, that said, I think it's good that water does have a weakness of some sort, because they can counter pretty much everything. Like it can counter stun. It's got Blue Maluga now, which is a very strong stun absorber, but it doesn't have any, like, you know, powerful stun counter. So anyway, that's where water stands now, and what I would think it needs is a bit more in the sleep category. I mentioned that when talking about what we got in sleep this year. I think water is known for sleep, and it'd be nice to see a return to that and focus on that and make it like sleep in PvE, not necessarily stuff that like makes it really good in PvP, because nobody likes the sleep meta in PvP. It's just like, okay, great, you put my whole team to sleep. Now I'm going to wait here for 5 minutes and see if I actually get to have a move. So sleep for PvE, I think that would be great to see in water, and to like make it like maybe a link water thing. You know, water seems to love link moves, so give them link water moves, link sleep moves, and a little bit less focus on PvP for a bit of time to like let the other elements catch up. I like the detox theme a lot. I think they're doing some interesting things there, And Atlan Tyrant was a great addition this year, but I would love to see what more they could do with it and make poison on water, like keep it interesting. Don't just make it like Poison Eater moves that the other elements have. I think that would be really cool to make water like special in that regard. And then not any more link moves. I mean, just be careful and not make water super powerful, because it's already the most powerful in PvP, and I think like, maybe they intended for it to be the most powerful, but it feels like they added in the right stuff for PvP, the stuff that just works really nicely for PvP, and it's not necessarily that they wanted to like make water amazing in PvP, but just that the things they put into the game that are in water happen to be exactly what work in PvP. So anyway, that's what I think in general. And I hope you enjoyed this video. That's everything for this video. This is the end of the series. Like I said at the beginning, this is the last video in that. So do check out the other videos if you haven't seen them yet. And otherwise, I'll be doing various other videos that are not on this topic. There'll be PvP and other kind of stuff in the very near future. So I hope you look forward to those. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in a video soon.